Why do you want them to listen to your podcast?
So that when they think about starting a business, they've got the content that is pointing them in the right direction.
That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
The change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
Hey, Ben, welcome back.
G'day, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's been a little while, and I thought it'd be good to throw you in the deep end with one. So just looking up LMCA, and there's some tool talking about guys running 40-volt Makita gear. And they're chasing run times on 40-volt Makita gear, and I'm like, looking at this going, 40-volt Makita is got lots of issues compared to the good old 18x2. The old 18x2's got more intuitive triggers, whereas 40 volts, you got your things that switch off on them as soon as they sit idle for 3 seconds and stuff like that. But what's your thoughts on that? I think the 40 volt should get a better runtime than the 18x2.
To be honest, pal, I haven't messed with Makita as a brand at all.
Yeah.
I guess it would depend. What tool are we talking about? Is it a hedger or is it a...
He's got Whippersnipper listed there, so...
Ooh, okay, Whippersnipper, mate, probably 40 volt. What amp battery?
So the first person's commented said 5 amp battery's crap. Don't use it.
So the 5 amp on the Whippy, mate, 25 to 30 minutes flat trigger, I reckon.
Yeah, well, being 40 volt, the 5 amp should do better than on the 18 volt ones. But yeah, certainly, I reckon half hour at best. Hey,
Half hour at best, yeah. But that's not a Makita thing. Like that's across the board, really.
The first comments complaining about the 1 second power off safety.
Well, actually, I will have to admit that I don't know. It's love hate. Like it's good to have a machine that does turn off because like everyone's had it before. You throw your drills in the tool bag or whatever, and they're leaning up against something, and you can hear them when you might be driving. You can hear them in the bag going like, and it can happen with the power tools as well, like your OPE.
I've got that with the Ego tools, so I like it. But if I've got my blower sitting in the back of my buggy and I throw green waste in there, and all of a sudden I hear the blower blowing that green waste straight in my face.
So it can happen. The bush ranger stuff that I'm running now, it turns off after 3 seconds, and I legitimately always forget. I mean, obviously I'm not an operator anymore, so I'm only running this stuff a few times a week, as opposed to as multiple times a day. I guess it's just whatever you get used to.
Yeah, that's it. So I mean, I like the Makita gear that I do have. But I've been playing with a bit of Milwaukee lately, and I reckon, I don't know if you've seen the power shears, the secateurs. Love them.
I've seen them. I haven't tried them. I think I'm going to be trying the Bush Ranger 48 volt ones.
So they've got a set. Nice.
Well, I hope I didn't make that up, but I think if they don't have it, they must have it coming because I did mention like some bits and pieces in that 48 volt range, which is like the stuff that I'm messing with is that 82 volt range. But the 48 volt, I just didn't even consider it. But like the little handsaw thing, little chainsaws, like the Stihl had one first, and then so there's a couple of cool items there.
Yeah. Well, I remember Jared Summer was one of the first guys to flash around a fake Makita secateurs. And since then, that's probably close to 12 months ago, but just about every brand is bringing out secateurs now. I noticed Stihl brought out a pair in the last month.
It's a no-brainer, really. I know BJ tried the Milwaukee ones, and he said they're gangster as hell, but he said that it is a particular application. Like if you are pruning roses and doing things like that, then that would be fantastic. If you needed to do anything in a hurry, probably not suitable. And if you're clumsy, certainly not suitable. You will lose a finger.
my thoughts are the opposite to him. So pruning roses, I'm going to go for the Japanese secateurs every time for that precision and ease of use. But I find using the Milwaukee, if you're doing a lot of light pruning, then the trigger gets annoying and you end up with like almost getting a blister on your fingers from pulling the trigger. Whereas
Yeah, okay.
if you're doing less prunes, but you got to do stuff that's bigger than 10 millimeters, then they just make it so easy. So if you,
Yeah, and what's like the diameter that they can?
I've done up to about 30 mil, maybe even more.
That's
So
pretty big effort.
30 to 40 mil. It's pretty
Yeah,
decent.
okay. Yeah.
And the only downside there is that you're going to need to buy a new set of blades for it every now and then, because when you're cutting the big stuff, you're going to end up damaging the blades.
Yeah, fully. Yeah.
But yeah, that's been my experience. I love the Milwaukee one there, and tempted to play with some of the other brands, see if they'll throw me a free product to demo every now and then.
That's it. I mean, I don't get a chance much these days, just because like we used to really feed off that exposure, but I just wouldn't have time to do it anymore. I'm flat stick doing my own stuff.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because that's the main reason we got you on today. We want to have a bit of a chat about what's happened with CatchPro in the last, what are we talking, last 3 years. You've really gone from a fledgling company to really busy. Are you thinking of leaving your job to start a profitable and enjoyable lawn and garden business? Aussie Lawn Stars shares stories, lessons, and advice to help you grow a healthy, productive, efficient, and sustainable business. Got questions or want more information? Contact Aussie Lawn Stars at iCloud.com or reach out to Gary Ashton on Facebook or Messenger for personal help. But beware, your question may end up in a podcast episode. For business coaching that ensures the right mindset and decision-making approach, check out Think Tank Coaching. Their website is https://thinktankcoaching.com.au. They've been instrumental in helping me and can guide you towards achieving your business goals. You can also email them at thinktankcoaching@outlook.com. Need to set up best practices for bookkeeping, accounting, and business structure? Contact Adrian from Prosper Financial at 02 4977 3363. And don't forget to join Lawn Mowing Contractors Australia and Australian Professional Lawn Contractors Facebook groups. Great supportive communities focused on our industry. The growth's been exponential.
Yeah, look, certainly if you go back 3 years for sure.
It's 3 years ago when I first interviewed you.
Yeah, okay, yep. Well, I reckon if it was 3 years ago, I was probably still running Greenscape Solutions. I
You
believe
were.
I gave that away. I am going to say I reckon it was 2.5 years ago. And
Yeah.
it was around Easter time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
you were
think,
definitely still running that when we did the first interview.
Yeah. So a lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we did that first interview, you had the CatchPro out and you were starting to get a lot of sales. I think initially when you first brought it out, it was slow building to get the sales out. But once we did the first interview, you were getting a lot of sales through.
Yeah, I remember must have been right around COVID that we started. But it was sort of like you think back to COVID and you think like it's called COVID-19.
Yeah.
But it really was like must have been late 2020 or early 2021 that it really started to take off for us.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like 2020 we definitely saw growth, but I believe it was 2021 that's when I started looking at it and thinking like, yeah, does it make sense to cut grass anymore?
Yeah. I remember having one of those conversations with you back when you were still running Greenscape and going, Ben, CatchPro is going to take over your time. You need to think about getting somebody else to run Greenscapes.
My problem is that people would probably never pick this about me, but I'm a really sentimental dude. Like,
Yeah.
and it was so hard for me to just leave Greenscapes, even though I
Yeah.
wasn't there that much anymore anyway. It
Yeah.
was just so hard for me to just let that go, like my villages and my acreages and
Yep.
things like that. And I mean, even just the day to day life in some respect. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
like it was like, and I just went through it in the last 7 days with our new CatchPro that we've launched. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm I'm punching my last rivet, like for the last couple of years, all I've done is sit exactly where I'm sitting right now and just
Yeah.
punch rivets. Um,
So
so
that's not going to happen anymore.
no, that's not going to happen anymore. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. I literally thought I was punching my last rivet, and I had owed a dealer 2 units. Not
Right.
owed, but I said that they could buy them, and then what happened was a different dealer was really making a fuss about units, and I basically pulled those 2 units away and said, okay, you can have these. And so
Yeah.
I thought that I was punching my last ever rivets, but when we were developing the new Catch Pro, some of our parts ended up at various different powder coaters around Brisbane,
Right.
and I didn't really go and collect all of the different parts but I had one whole unit assembly somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I packed up all my stuff. I changed all my hardware. Like, I thought I was done. And it was like 2 days later, and I was like, oh man, I had to get all my stuff out, all the handles. Like, yeah, and I built up one very last unit.
Okay. So
Yeah.
one for nostalgia's sake.
And it's a special unit because it's like that original design that we were running with, but it's fully powder coated. So
Yeah.
someone's getting a good deal on that one.
Yeah. So every Catch Pro now going out will be the new design. And the powder coating is interesting because the old aluminium design, everyone was pretty happy with it. It's not faulted. It's not like you're going, well, we've got to fix something. But powder coating on its own makes a difference to them.
Yeah, I'll walk you through that decision. So the yeah, for 5 years we've just had that raw aluminium design.
Yeah.
The new design is still aluminium. We decided to run with powder coat because the units, when they're getting handled through the manufacturing process and then through the fabrication process, which is me, and then again through the shipping process, which is probably the most brutal. Pete, like you could almost look at this aluminium and scratch it, like it
Yes.
it just scratches so easy. And we used to see people that like had their units in the field for 7 days and they looked like they'd been out there for years.
Yep.
Like they just get so dirty, so scratched up, and it's just the nature of raw aluminium.
I know
So
I give mine a good washout every now and then.
yeah, well, not
High
many
pressure
people do.
hose.
Mm. So that was definitely one aspect of why we wanted to explore powder coat in the first place.
Yeah.
There really is a few reasons. So we go to like a little gyms. It's like a franchise or regional meetup.
Oh, yeah.
And I got some feedback from a user, and he just said like the sun that reflects off the Catch Pro just really blinds him, and he hates it, and he
Yeah.
painted his unit.
Okay.
And you would think that this new powder coat would make these units like really hot, and it's a dark color, so you'd think that would
Yeah.
be generating heat and reflecting.
Yep.
But it doesn't. It makes it really nice. The unit doesn't get hot.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, like just aesthetically looks nicer.
It
Um,
certainly
and
does. It
all
looks great.
and all of the pieces are just so nice to touch and handle. Um,
Yeah.
it was nothing to catch an edge, on your fingers, on your arms, or
Yeah.
anything before.
Yep.
And now everything is just so much nicer and smoother. But not only that, it actually physically stiffens all of those panels. Like that
Yeah,
powder
okay.
coat, that powder coat is going on almost half a mil thick. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, it's very thick.
Normal powder coat is only like 0.2 of a mil. So anyway, stiffens all those panels, and it was just. I was convinced that if we were coming out with a new Catch Pro with new features, that it needed a new look.
Yep.
So yeah, because we have had people question it.
Yeah, fair enough. So walk
Yeah.
me through some of the other things that you've changed on this, because it's not just the powder coating, right?
Yeah, so we moved to a legitimate flat pack unit.
Yeah.
And it's love hate for me because we wanted to move to a flat unit so that because the shipping was starting to get out of control.
Yeah.
The shipping was really starting to get out of control. Like to send a built Catch Pro to WA from Brisbane is like around $400.
Wow. Yeah.
We couldn't send one locally for less than 88.
Yep.
And like I think even from where we are to you,
Would have still been a couple hundred.
is probably not too like 160, $180.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's so the new Catch Pro is going to ship for legitimately 50% of the cost.
That's good.
The downside of it, and I'm just going to be completely honest with everyone, is that the retail has gone up.
Yeah.
And I mean, we should have done that a long time ago. But
Yeah.
once again, I didn't feel comfortable lifting the retail unless we were going to, have some new added features in this unit. Anyway, with the shipping reduction, what's been great about it is that generally people aren't going to be really paying much more. It's just that instead of paying that money to a shipping company, they're actually now just getting a better unit.
Yeah. So flat pack is something I actually like the idea of. I don't mind putting things together myself and get a bit of joy out of it. A lot of people do. But for somebody who's getting a flat pack and they don't want to be mucking around with it, what's the expected time to build something like that? If somebody's just pulling it out of the box, never seen one before, got to work out how to put it together, is it half hour or hour?
So we built 10 units and we sent 8 units out to 8 different test people around Australia. And one of them was Leroy.
Yep.
And he built his on his pool table in 18 minutes.
Wow.
We had a couple, so the average time was about 25 minutes.
Yep.
We did have one person, it took them 45 minutes, and another person did take them an hour.
Okay.
Their units are going to be a little bit different. They didn't actually have instructions.
Right.
They just had a video that I shot, mate, barefoot.
As you do.
And well, I mean, for them, I did it right. Like the real video is going to be very nice, but one of the test guys went out shooting and gave it to his wife to put together.
Okay.
She put it together, no dramas, in about 30 minutes. It is actually very straightforward.
Yeah.
I put it together in about. I actually tried to beat Leroy. I actually didn't beat Leroy. It took me about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would have stopped to have a smoke halfway there.
No, no, I believe I was processing while I was doing it.
Yeah.
yeah, like if I was hooking in, possibly, but there's not really a reason to hook in. Like,
Yeah.
you wanna sort of just make sure you're doing everything right. The biggest thing everything is very straightforward. The biggest thing is running your bolts in an order because
Right.
there's a tiny little bit of play in everything.
Yep.
Like not everything is precise. When it was precise, it was very difficult to put together.
Yeah.
When we opened up some of the holes and allowed for a little bit of play, it it just means that each piece goes on so much nicer.
Yep.
So that process is really good now. And I think ultimately having the consumer have to assemble the unit is not a positive. Like
Right.
I think every consumer out there would honestly rather a box come and the
Yep.
unit is built.
Yeah.
But we really had to make that decision. Do we want to keep getting raped by the shipping companies?
Yeah.
You've got such a huge box. It's all your shipping is air.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I still
and
think there's a set of consumers out there that are IKEA customers and they want to put it together.
yeah, I'm not really sure. Jeez, man, I'm not really sure that anyone actually wants to. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
look, the other upsides to it is that now, if you damage the unit, we never really replaced. So I've only ever replaced a side panel once,
Right.
and I still don't believe that I should have. It must have been some sort of manufacturer's default that I've never seen or heard of before out of the thousands of units that are out there.
Yeah.
We've never replaced the top panel or the sides apart from that one.
Yeah.
The most common part that we would ever replace is the bottom, the door, and parts of the inlet when people smash into stuff. So
Right.
the
Yep.
big upside now is that if you do damage, now it's very simple to swap that piece out. Whereas before, and I believe you've done this, drilled out the rivets. Didn't you have to do it
Yeah.
and swap inlets?
So I bought mine to fit my walker, and then when I sold my walker, I got you to supply the inlet for the right. So yeah,
That's right.
swapped it out.
So yeah, and so that now that we've got so many cash pros out there,
Yeah.
that is starting to happen more often. People are buying. People won't necessarily understand, but Walker, Bush Ranger 42s, Worldlawn Gators, Hustler Dash, Time Cutter 34s, they all have very shallow deck openings, like 90 mil.
Yeah.
And if you run a standard Catch Pro, which has 120 mil mouth, then
Yep.
you're skull dragging it. But it's not the body that is the issue; it's the front of the inlet. If it digs in, it actually will do. I've done it. My catcher has done a forward flip off because it just bites in at the bottom.
Yep.
And once that thing comes out and the locating pin lets go, she's
Gone.
So we have three different mouths of the Catch Pro
Yeah.
and certain fitments. So even if I'd have to double check, but the 32 V rides, there's people that put the 36 wheels on it.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if that messes with their fitment or not, but we have a Catch Pro. The mouth is the same, but it pushes the catcher out an extra 20 mil to give you space for the rear wheel.
I have a feeling I've seen that come up for somebody when they change their wheels. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now it's, instead of, having to sit down and go through a whole process, now you'd undo 9 bolts and you have to obviously buy the mouth, but
Yeah.
you can undo 9 bolts. And you know what? If you got the two machines and if you really wanted to, you can keep those two mouths and switch between
Yeah.
machines if you really
It would.
if you really had
Yep.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't say
Um,
I'd be doing that in a hurry, but yes, you can.
well, in all honesty, you'd switch out a mouth in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do it. But if you're switching them back and forth, that's going to get a bit tedious.
It's not something that I would like to do. Like
No.
you should see me, mate. You should see me crack the shits. Like I got the HD Gravely and the V Ride,
Yeah.
and they pretty much they basically take the same they take the same CatchPro, but because I've got like the Pro Shield and then I've got the Ballard blocker on the other one, the hook of the catcher just needs to be in a different location.
Yep.
And even changing the hook, like it's two Phillips head screws.
Yep.
Even sometimes when I go to quickly chuck it on the V Ride, I'm like, man, like it even annoys me having to do that's a 2-minute job.
Yep.
So
yeah, I know I've played around with where that hook goes to try and get the best fitment on mine, and yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, once I got it,
50% of the way, 50% of the way up the inlet is the best location.
yeah, it makes sure it holds it in the right place.
Yeah, a lot of people want to run that hook at the very back of the mouth because
Yes.
they think it's going to take the load, but the locating pin is really a locator. It is taking some load, but it's really the hook that bears most of that load. So you want to
Yeah.
sort of run that halfway up. I actually like it even closer to the locating pin. It just keeps
Yeah.
everything nice and tight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because I sit there looking at mine going, oh yeah, the front just move away just a little bit if I'd have it too far back.
Yes. It can do. Yeah. And so it's just because that locating pin is really just to stop your lateral movement.
Yeah.
Yep. A couple of other things that we added in is wear plates along the bottom.
Yeah, good idea.
Not everyone will remember this, but obviously in America there's the accelerator grass catcher, right?
Yep.
And it's a welded unit.
Yeah.
And for us, that's not a reality in Australia to have a welded unit. We'd be paying $3,500 for a grass catcher. So one time I was getting smashed on LMCA about rivets,
Yep.
which for the most part, I mean, they worked really well for a really long time. But what the challenge was is if you've got the bottom of your CatchPro and you catch an edge in between rivets,
Yeah.
then you can peel that material away. Like the bottom can peel away from the sidewall.
Yeah.
If you have impact where the rivet is, it's all gravy. But in the middle of those rivets, so what we've got now is we have wear plates and impact plates that run. I mean, look, they're 2 mil aluminium.
Yep.
It's not much, but it does mean that when you smack that, it basically maintains the integrity of the bottom panel to your side panels.
And you could also replace that wear plate if it's getting a lot of wear.
Oh, like that, yeah.
Easy.
It'll be a very inexpensive part to swap out, yeah.
Perfect.
So it'll be really good. In addition to that, we've added extra airflow throughout the whole unit. Now we opened up the panel, the inside panel of the CatchPro. We always have that closed off. And the reason why we had it closed off is on certain machines. So I actually just didn't believe that you needed it. A part of me still believes that you don't need it.
Yep.
But because we have so many units out there and we can't educate everyone, some people have issues with their catches clogging or whatever the case may be. So we were like, you know what? Let's just get more airflow going through this thing. It adds a little bit more forgiveness. So not only did we open up that panel, but we increased the amount of open area throughout the whole unit, just to get it to breathe more.
Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a CatchPro for manicured areas and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right Standards go the distance, saving you time and money season after season. Yeah. I know when I first got my CatchPro, I had issues with the airflow on it. But I was using the Walker with the swingback blades on it. And there's not a lot of people run a ride-on mower with swingback blades, but the Walker, when you run swingback blades, it runs a flat blade on the top and then a lift blade on the bottom. And it's great for mulching, but really bad for airflow. So when I put the catcher on there, I'm like, this thing's not going to pack the catcher real well.
Yeah, I mean, it may also be, just in regards to that shallower mouth.
Yeah, the lower profile. Although when I switched to the bigger deck on the Walker, because I had the 42 and the 56-inch deck, the 56-inch deck had bar blades on it instead of swingback blades, and it would certainly pump the grass out with the bar blades on.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Look, I do know, like, it's tough for Walker users because the Walkers have such a beautiful cut,
Yeah,
and it's one of the only true floating decks, right? So it's actually cutting
yeah,
everything.
yep,
The amount of, and they actually have a fairly big discharge chute as well.
yeah,
Um, a lot of people are under the assumption that, like that these deck openings are like say 400 and beyond, 400 mil wide.
yeah,
But there's honestly like only say 20% of the mowers out there are actually 400 or bigger. Everything
yep,
else is much smaller.
yeah,
And the the deck openings that are a little bit smaller, they do pack the catcher better because you just have less volume entering the mouth at one time.
right.
When you've got so much, it has to get through the mouth first. Once it gets through the mouth, you're all gravy.
Yep. Yeah, so deck design makes a massive difference to airflow. And I've seen
It
quite a few different decks around and certainly recognise that the depth of the deck makes a big difference as well as how wide that opening is.
it does. Also, the distance between the tip of the blade and the front of the baffles as well. There's I mean, look, at the end of the day, they all do discharge grass.
Yeah,
And yes, I believe certain mowers do pack the Catch Pro better than others.
yeah,
One that really stands out is like the Toro grandstands.
yeah,
They really pack the catcher good.
yep,
The Skag V Ride 32, like I know
okay,
for a fact it packs better than say my 48 V Ride.
yep,
Um, the Gravely decks do a great job. If anyone, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of your listeners know Leroy, right?
yeah.
If you go
Most
on
people,
his Insta,
Leroy.
if you go on his Instagram, he's got like a little ZT34 Gravely press deck,
Yep,
and you go and watch his time lapses, and like he's just striping up stuff with his Catch Pro. Like
yeah,
it's collecting
yep.
really well. So there's certainly decks that pack better than others.
Well, I've
But
got
we
two.
can't try them all, like
Yeah,
we can look at a deck and make a bracket and we know that catcher fits, but we
yep,
can't go out there and do the physical testing.
yeah. Well, I've got two rights, and one's a 42 and one's a 61-inch, right? And you would think 61 with 37 horsepower is going to do a whole lot more than the 42 with, 17 horsepower or something it's got on that. Right. The blades for these two mowers are identical blades. So when you buy them brand new, they've got a high lift blade on there and they're fairly good at side discharging. I bought a set of blades off you, set of Ballard's blades off you, and put them on the 61. And remind me what the name of the blades are. They're the one with the gator style, but what the Ballards call them?
The Ripper.
The Ripper. Right. So the Ripper on my 61, going from the standard blades to the Ripper, has reduced the airflow like you wouldn't believe it. So, and
Well,
you
it
would know.
will because they're a mulcher, the Ripper.
So with the original blades on, that thing was side discharging like 3 times the width of the mower. And with the Ripper on there, it barely comes out the side discharge at all.
Yeah, well, the Ripper's designed to throw the grass up into the deck so that it can
Yeah.
fall back down and be recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes a massive difference to how much airflow you've got going out through the side discharge or into your CatchPro.
Oh yeah, man! Like if you chuck a pair of those Ballard high rise blades on anything, like I mean, the ski jump on those things is pretty. Like you get some pretty good airflow.
Yeah.
And then if you double them up and run the X blades, like you're like ready to take off, mate.
I'll have to give that a try next. So I've still got the original blades on the standard eye, the 42-inch, and that throws really well for a 42-inch machine, but the got the Rippers on the 61, so I'm thinking I'm going to go back to high lift or even try the try the Ballard's high lift. See how we go.
Yeah, they that's the highest lift blade that you could get in Australia.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and look, it's great. It's great for so many different applications.
Yep.
The only thing that hurts the Ballard high rise blade in Australia, this is what Corey Ballard he does not understand. But he has a gold high rise, which is it's got the tungsten edge.
Yeah.
So it lasts 4 times longer.
Yeah.
And I won't take it on. And he's like, "Come on, Ben, you got to take this on." You know, rah, rah, rah. He's giving me like, all this analytics, and he's feeding me all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I've told him because we're mowing so low and we're mowing sandy conditions.
Yep.
It's great to have that edge that's going to last 4 times longer. But the lift and the curve is just getting pounded by sand and air.
Yep.
And the flute actually wears out before your hardened edge. And the high rise that will happen as well. It's just that price wise in the market, it's priced just like every other blade. Whereas this gold blade, because it has that tungsten edge, it's going to be more expensive. And we carry it in the hybrid Ripper because it's got the fins, the airflow can pass through, and it's a fine blade to run. You get that longevity. But as a high rise, once that flute wears out, it doesn't matter how sharp that cutting edge is. The blade's useless. It won't throw anymore. It'll cut. It just won't throw.
Yeah. Well, I can send you a picture of the standard right blade with their high lift on them and the big holes in the flute because of the amount of crap that gets thrown through there.
Yeah. And, blade manufacturers in Australia get a lot of heat, right? I mean, there is not really any blade manufacturers. I mean, I know there's ASP. Are they like the only one, or?
Well,
like there's obviously distributors.
RGS do blades, but they only do the push mower blades.
Yeah, they're only doing push blades. They don't make any bar blades. But
right,
like let's just call them blade companies. They get a lot of shit because people are like, oh, these are crap. They wear out, but it's really unfortunate our cutting conditions. Like it just is what it is. When you're cutting so low and when you're hitting rocks, when you're hitting sticks, like I did have someone call me the other day, and they said that their OEM blades were pathetic,
Yep.
because they were getting chips in them. And I
Yeah.
said, in all honesty, pal, like if you're getting chips in those blades and you want to run our blades, like if you're getting chips in a blade, you're hitting rocks and sticks no matter what. Like you
Yep.
are, and really, it's not even really sticks; it's rocks. If you're getting chips in the blade, and it's
Yeah.
going to happen with any blade.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people through podcasting, and my conclusion in Australia is that when you're using a zero turn ride on mower, the ultimate cut height in Australia is 2.5 inches. Now, if you're talking a 42-inch machine or smaller, they may not have any anti-scalp wheels on it. And that means even at 2.5 inches, you're still going to have quite a few times where you're scalping on a smaller zero turn. Whereas the 61 inch or the 52 inch, that's going to be a really popular size for people, it's going to have anti-scalp wheels, which means at 2.5 inches, you've got some protection there. But even so, today, I know I hit rocks several times when I was on the mower.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like I said, it's. I mean, I think me and BJ were actually going to do some sort of America versus Australia comparison
Yeah.
of just the two industries.
Yep.
And like it really is true. Like if you get on a Super Z in Australia
Yeah.
and like you can cut at 26 k's an hour, right?
Yeah.
There's just not that many nice places where you can actually use that thing wide open safely or
Yep.
comfortably.
Yeah.
Like I do know when we were all cutting the 40 acres, there was like maybe 15 or 20 acres of it that were pretty nice. You could go wide open.
Yep.
And you watch the Americans, man, and they're like mowing these like mad fields, and they're just hauling. You just can't do it here.
Yeah. Well, I think Americans probably go down to 3.5 inches, but typically they're over 4 inches cut height.
I just don't. I don't understand it. Like
Yeah.
I mean, their lawns look longer after they've cut them than before we even start. You know what I mean? Like they're like, yeah, we just cut
Yep.
this lawn, and you can literally see if it's windy, the blades
Yeah.
of grass are going like that. If
Yep.
you see that in Australia, you're like, you shouldn't be in the field. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that really stands out, that cut height difference, isn't it? But the other thing is weekly cuts. And in the US, that's fairly standard. I've found if you go into some of the warmer climates, they drop back to fortnightly cuts. So I think Florida or somewhere like that, they do fortnightly.
look, I could be wrong, but is the weekly cuts a result of just seasons? Like they don't cut for like 4 to 6 months of the year. So why not just go ape shit in the summer and just cut all as much as you can? Like in Australia,
Yeah.
like let's say in Brisbane, for example, I actually do mow my lawn every week,
Yeah.
pretty much all year round.
Yeah.
But if I was a paying customer, could I really afford that? Or if I lived, like in the snowy mountains or something,
Yeah.
and you didn't cut for 6 months a year, you're like, well, maybe I can afford to, like that's what I'm just only wondering that.
Well, my philosophy, and I've been pushing Australia to do weekly cuts, but my philosophy is if you cut weekly in Australia, then either it's your own lawn or your customer wants their lawn to be the best.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually cut my lawn more regularly than that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a Segway now, so it gets cut every day.
Yeah.
But this paddock that I got next door, I'm probably already cutting it every 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
And if it gets away from me, if it goes beyond 7, it just looks like a massacre out there.
I was on the whippersnipper for about 2 hours after I got home today, just doing edges, and that's less than a week since they were done. But it's just because the robot mower's there, the edges were looking terrible.
Oh, I so badly feel you, pal. Like
Yeah,
I, like now, like I said, I was probably mowing my back lawn every 3 days because it's not a nice lawn. It
yeah,
but it looked $1 million when it was mowed. But
yeah,
even with 3 days growth on it, because different types of grass and different weeds and
yep,
bits and pieces, it wouldn't grow uniform.
yeah,
So I was always cutting it.
yep.
Anyway, now that I've got the Segway, it looks beautiful all the time. And the edges, man, like just after a couple of days, I'm like, oh, man, it's just looking at me. I've got to cut it again.
Yep.
Um, so apparently there's a Segway coming out that does your edges too.
I've noticed even Husqvarna are advertising their new auto mower with edge mowing.
I have not looked into it or looked at it at all.
Yeah,
I don't know that I can fully get amongst that concept until I start seeing it working because there is so
yeah.
many variables.
Well, look, I think at the moment the only edge mowing they're going to do is just going closer to the edge. It's not actually going to do like a vertical edge or anything like that at this
Oh no, I
stage.
couldn't do. Yeah, yeah. But that would be enough, just getting closer to the edge, and you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but I mean, like I know, like I'll put up a block wall around my whole property, and it's
Yeah.
painted. And you can imagine when you're like trying to set the Segway up, if you
Yeah.
do like a little whoopsie where you go like too far in, and then you've
Yep.
got trimmer cord that's just smashing your paint job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a few things that I would need to look at and see it happening before I feel like I could fully get amongst that.
You haven't got the latest Segway yet, and the I series, because you've got the H series, I've got the H series as well. But the I series Segway uses AI to do some of the mapping for you, so it's going to get that spot on.
Oh man, technology is just blowing me away,
Yeah, it's running ahead of us. We're getting old, Ben.
Yep. Yes, I am.
Yeah,
um,
boy.
just quickly before we get on to anything else,
Yeah,
um, just circling back to the Catch Pro. So the main thing that we upgraded
yeah,
um, is the back door. Now, for
yeah.
a
Okay.
long time, we have had people saying like, "Oh, is there something different you can do with this door?" And Corey Ballard, they changed their door immediately,
Okay.
and I, I always kind of looked at it and was like, do we really need to go there? Like, it was pretty exhausting coming up with all the designs as it was.
Yeah.
So I sort of, I guess, well, I didn't make myself up. I was basically content with the design.
Yep.
Um, but one thing that we wanted to do when we upgraded the unit was to come out with a new door, and we needed it to have a reason. And
Yeah.
so essentially, with this new door, no one really knows this yet because we're not advertising it, but we are going to have a whole leaf extension this catcher will accept a whole leaf extension, which is
Okay.
awesome because
Yep.
I was supposed to come out with it 3 years ago.
Yep.
Um, but this new door that we have allows the operator to actually empty the Catch Pro without removing the door.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
and this is a huge positive for anyone that's dumping into like green bags,
Yep.
or if on an acreage property where you're just dumping into a pile.
Yep.
Unfortunately, if you're dumping into like a wheelie bin or your trailer or truck, you're
Hmm.
going to be removing the door, I believe. There is a guy, one of our test guys, Christopher Wolfton. Now, he effortlessly emptied into a wheelie bin, but he's a big, strong dude. I tried it, and I think you just have to get it up too high because by the time the
Right.
door swings down, you've got another 400 that you need to go up.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me and my back, it's not really worth it.
Yep.
He just, like I've got the video. He's like, oh, I love this thing. Um, but I do think people of his strength and build, they'll be okay.
Yep.
But if you're emptying into a typical grass bag and stuff like that, it's just so good. You just pull this pin. They're a little bit sticky when you first get them because of that powder coat.
Yeah.
Once, you just got to give it a little tap, and then you can just swing dump that thing, and it's really nice.
That sounds good.
And
You got
hopefully
me,
people will stop losing doors now.
yeah. You got me excited to get one of the updated ones now.
Well, look, we are hoping that the whole idea for the new CatchPro is to not only just have a refresh, but it is also we want to continue to bring in new customers because
Yeah.
we're doing new business all the time. Like
Yep.
most people that have bought a CatchPro don't really come back and buy another one unless they've had some huge
Yeah.
accident.
They're growing their business. They're putting on multiple teams or something.
Yeah, like so we see it occasionally, but what we do hope with this new CatchPro is we can continue to bring in this new customers, and
Yep.
then we hope that our past and current customers will want to upgrade.
Yep.
Because they will be getting a better unit, and
Yep.
later on, when we have the leaf extension and we've got something else coming forward as well, it'll make them more efficient in their business.
Awesome. Well, be interesting to see what the leaf extension looks like. I've seen some videos of guys in America doing similar sorts of things.
It'll be pretty much the same as what Corey's got. It won't be exactly the same because the new CatchPro is bigger than the old one.
Yeah.
So dimensions wise, it's not much bigger, but volume wise, it's a lot bigger.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, Ben, something I've seen come up, was it last week? You were playing around with a Whippa Grippa that is multi-handed?
Yeah, so the we've labeled these two new products Urban Assault, right? Now,
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from. Obviously, it came from me, right?
Yep.
But I don't know. So when the Urban Assault name, right, was originally just going to be for the new Whippa Grippa.
Yep.
And then, seeing the CatchPro come to life with the powder coat and the new sticker, I was like, oh, man, like this. And someone did ask me, like, what's Urban Assault, right? But
Yeah.
all it is for us is instead of having like a Series 3 CatchPro or a Series 2 Whippa Grippa, we just thought, you know what, let's not, like, I don't want people to think that if they're buying something that 2 years later or a year later or whatever it is, it's going to be immediately upgraded and they're going to have something that is, inferior to what would be coming out next.
Yep.
So using that Urban Assault, it's the new series, but we don't want to put that number on it.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, but the Whippa Grippa, I mean, the original product was great. There's nothing wrong with it. Literally, this new, and the only reason why we've made this new handle is operators just can't figure out if they're left or right-handed.
I noticed that. You know that I've got a Whippa Grippa that I didn't buy from you. I bought it from Michael Carroll because he ordered a left-handed Whippa Grippa.
That's it. I mean, it just didn't matter how many videos or how much red writing I had on that web listing. People just couldn't get it right. And it's just costing everyone in silly dollars. And then, you get bad reviews. They're like, oh, this person sent me the wrong Whippa Grippa. And, like, we almost never did that. You know, but I'm sympathetic. Like I understand it. It was a confusing concept.
Yeah.
You know, but this new handle, it eliminates all of that. One of the biggest positives to the new handle is that um, if you if you have a few different team members and one happens to be right-handed, one happens to be left-handed, but they both use that same machine,
Yep.
believe me, that's more common than what you would think.
That's a problem for me.
Yeah, and now this solves that problem. Also, something that I learned is that there's some right-handed operators out there that occasionally just feel like operating like a lefty for the day
Yeah.
or for the hour or for the whatever.
Yep.
And the old version Whipper Gripper just didn't allow you to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I've got one Whipper Gripper at the moment. It runs on my Ego STX 4500, which, that's the one whipper snipper where it's got a little bit of extra weight and it really makes a big difference having the Whipper Gripper on it. But I've got a couple of Husky whips and, just running them without it. So I'm thinking, now that you can do the multi-handed one, the Husky whips, which often get used by the right-handed people, now I can run a Whipper Gripper on it and just swap it around if I'm using it or they're using it.
Yeah, and what will be really interesting to see is if anyone uses the pistol grip,
Yeah, true.
because you can kind of run it out forward, or you can run it back. I don't really see an application where you would be running it backward towards you.
Would it work
Um,
for vertical edges?
I don't really know. I mean, look, I just hold. I don't use any sort of handle when I'm doing vertical edging. Like
Yeah.
I know everyone does it different ways,
Yep.
but I lift the snipper up like this, and this
Yeah.
is taking all the weight here, and I've got my trigger, and my
Yep.
other hand is just on the shaft, and it's my guiding hand, and
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
how I do it. So I know a lot of operators, they'll add a whipper gripper, and they turn the D handle around
Yep.
so that when they do their edges, they can hold it. I tried that, and I just didn't really like it. I mean, for someone who's been doing something the same way for 20 years,
Yeah.
it just wasn't. I didn't see any benefit from trying to change.
Yep. Fair enough.
Yeah, so the new Ripper Gripper, we tried a few different colors, and I liked them.
Yeah.
Vicky didn't like them,
Okay.
and the actual manufacturer, um, he, like he sort of liked them, but like the decision was on me, right?
Yep.
And I never really been super decisive, but because indecisive, sorry, but I just couldn't choose a color. So like we were trying to go with this like desert camo or to
Yeah.
really match that urban assault or
Yep.
something like that, and we ended up just making them black.
Fair enough.
So
Yeah. You could do a desert camo or a pink camo for the ladies.
yeah, actually, it's funny. Someone requested a pink CatchPro sticker when we put something up for the Urban Assault CatchPro. That was another one.
Yeah.
Usually I could just think of something and pick it and make a decision. Yep, we're going with that. But I had 3 stickers and I just could not decide. And
Yep.
I asked everyone on social media, and there was no consistency in the answers.
Yeah.
Except one dude was like, "Oh yeah, you should make them pink." I was like,
Hmm.
"I don't think so."
Yep.
I'm sure my daughters would love it.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
Vicky would hate it if they were walking around with bloody pink Catch Pro stickers all over their stuff. So, actually, I've got 2 of the painted Whipper Grippers. If I held them up, would you see them on the camera?
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
grab them.
You'll have to just give me 3 seconds. I know I was longer. So this is like a greeny one. Oh, the light's throwing it off.
Yeah, you can see it. It's sort of a
It's
khaki
actually
green. Isn't it?
yeah, it is, but it's a really cool color green.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is closer. This one is a little bit like well, it's a little bit lighter. We were trying to aim for the Land Cruiser color.
Yep. Beige.
Yeah, and this one actually has a little bit. You'll never see it on the camera, but it's got like a pearl through it.
Okay.
They both look really cool,
Yeah.
but we just couldn't decide, mate. I like the green one though.
Yeah. Yeah. I reckon all those colours could sell. Would sell quite well.
Yeah, I don't think a color's ever gonna. I don't think it'll ever hurt sales.
The green will hide the grass when it gets covered in grass splatter.
I know, yeah. So, but I mean, ultimately, we kept it black. It's uniform. It
Yep.
it looks good on any machine.
Yeah.
It's what people know.
Yep.
So at the moment, we've actually the only other color we were considering was this Aztec hammer tone that we've got on the catches.
Yeah.
And the only reason why we didn't run with it is you need a special sticker that sticks to that paint.
Yeah, because it's hammer tone is a textured finish.
Yeah, like proper texture, like yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, other than the handle being rotatable to go between left and right handed with the new Whippa Gripper, is there any other design changes on that?
We did beef it up a little bit. Like the wall of the tube is just a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have to go there, but we just well, I'll just be honest because I just always end up going that way eventually. But
Yep.
the tube that we were using, it was thin, but it was an odd size, and it just wasn't always easy to get.
Oh, okay.
And because our pivot system uses an inner tube and an outer tube and things like that,
Yeah.
we actually just went with sizing that was more generic and so much easier to get.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
there was actually a couple of times during production runs where we went into severe back order because we couldn't get the right tubing.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it's just an
So
Australian
generic size would be
magic.
heaps easier to keep it stocked.
Yeah, like it's already been so much easier for us because
Yeah.
we can buy it in higher quantities.
Yep.
And ultimately, like the unit is a teensy bit heavier,
Yep.
which I didn't care about at all. But the guy that makes them, he doesn't use one every day.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, is this going to hurt the product? And I was like, no, look, what's hurting us is not having product to sell.
Yeah.
So yeah, we
Cool.
made that decision, and I mean it's easier to weld. Everything about it is easier. So
Yeah. No, that's
yeah,
good.
and as far as the weight, I mean, I think the unit is like 200 grams heavier or something.
Yeah.
Which to me was like it's just non-factor.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not enough to. Most people won't even notice it.
So the only other thing that we've done is we've increased the pivot point.
Yeah.
We used to have a certain amount of range.
Yep.
Now we actually have a little bit of extra range, and the range is not for the operator. The range is actually for like what was actually happening is, and we never had instructions for the Whipper Gripper.
Yeah.
We've finally done that now. And you get an Allen key in the kit as well, so that like people don't use impact drivers and things like that.
Yep.
But with the range for the Whippa Grippa, what was actually happening is people see their Whippa Grippa on the lawn on their snipper,
Yep.
and they pick it up by the Whippa Grippa.
Yep.
And what it actually does is it forces the pivot to work past its pivot point,
Yep.
and you can actually break the Whippa Grippa. Several people listening to this will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
It'll actually break the Whippa Grippa, and you can't fix it. You have to get a new one. And we have been warranting units within 12 months for that reason, but we know that is the reason why they're breaking. They won't break under regular use unless you're forcing it past. It's like trying to open a door against its hinges.
Yeah.
Eventually, it'll just break it.
The hinge will break.
Yeah. So they're the different things that we've done to it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're really excited to just make the ordering process easier for the customers.
Yeah. Well, that certainly will make it eliminates
that'll be the biggest
several problems.
Yeah, you just get on, just grab it, and the only thing that I do worry about is that we've got a smaller box, right? And it's going to ship set up as a left-handed unit.
Okay.
And technically, the left-handed unit it'll look exactly like a Darwin grip. And what we don't want is for people, like a right-handed operator, we want them to read the instructions so that they understand that's shipped as a left-handed unit because it's more compact.
Yep.
If you are a right-handed operator and you use it like that, then your arm is coming back over your body again. And our trimmer handle is different than all other trimmer handles because it faces outward and it really lets you have your arm in a natural position.
Yeah.
And that's, we want people to feel the full experience. I've got a mosquito, that's why I'm like.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So yeah. A lot of people have been asking about which brand of battery tool to buy, and I don't like to recommend one brand of battery for everyone or every situation. Dealer support and access to parts and service all play a big role in that decision. Some brands have better tools for specific needs or each product category. I've been using a variety of brands, and I endeavour to provide unbiased interviews on Aussie Lawn Stars with as many of those product brands as possible. I reached out to Ego Power Plus through the podcast because of how Barry supports the industry and Ego owners. Barry has impressed me with his loyalty to customers in providing support and listening to the needs of the industry, which has resulted in a full lineup of new commercial tools landing in Australia over the last 12 months that has positioned Ego as a leader in the commercial tool space for outdoor power equipment. Visit egopowerplus.com.au to see if they have the tools you need today.
Yeah.
Once you get to my age, you can't hear them buzzing so much.
Yeah, well, when it's quiet down here, when I'm down here at night doing papers, I mean, it's not very often it's quiet at my house, but when it is quiet, you can hear them, and
drive you crazy.
It drives me crazy, mate. Yeah.
So then the business has grown a lot over the last few years. The amount of sales you're doing has increased a lot, but also the types of product you're carrying has gone from just the CatchPro through to the CatchPro, the Whippa Grippa, and you've designed a few other products. So I'm assuming it's your same manufacturer that's doing some of your other products that you've come up with?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, CatchPro has never really come out with anything that didn't ever exist before.
Yeah.
But what we have done is we've either brought products to the Australian market that you can actually buy in Australia.
Yep.
Or we are now manufacturing them so that you can buy them.
Yes.
And the guy that makes the Whippa Grippa for me, he how many products would he be involved in? He is involved in the Pro Shield. Um, he does all the wiring. He also orders all of those components.
Yep.
He does all my welding for me, so that would be. People might not know this, but some of the Ballard products that we were bringing in, they were like low volume and
Yep.
a little bit bigger and bulkier,
Yeah.
and we would sell them in waves. Like if I ordered 10 cone caddies, right? I mean, not everyone even knows what a cone caddy is, but
Yeah.
if I had 10 cone caddies, they might actually sit there for like 6 months, and
Yeah.
on a random week, I'll sell 8. And it was just like, no matter it didn't matter how you looked at the analytics, there was no pattern at all. It was random.
Yep.
So he welds up all the cone caddies. He welds up the T-Raxes. We managed to secure the manufacturing rights for those products, and now we pay Korea royalty.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's really cool. So technically, like they're all Australian-made products now.
Yeah.
We don't do that because really we're just licensing the design.
Yep.
It's still a Ballard product.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, he's involved in several products, and he
Yeah.
loves our industry. Like
Yeah.
he loves he came to BJ's show.
Awesome.
He didn't want anyone to know who he was.
Yeah.
But he sat back and he was just watching the Whippa Grippas fly out of the box. Like he's loving it.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Oh, that's good. So, along with the products that you make or that your manufacturer produces, you've got some Ballard products you import, and then you're also dealing with GA spares.
yeah, and all of these deals that I've gotten along the way has just been, that new step,
Yeah.
just going forward. Like I always think about Equipment Defender, for example.
Yep.
Like we've got an exclusive deal with Equipment Defender.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I got that deal over a WhatsApp text message. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
some of the things that I've been able to do, um, like I probably shouldn't take credit for some of this stuff, but it is true that like
Yeah.
the Cox deal with Ed Wright, like I did that over Messenger. You know what I mean? Like I
Nice.
just texted Ed one night,
Yeah.
and like eventually he hooked me up with his international salesman.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I got him fully in touch with then at the time Pete Jameson.
Yep.
And
Okay.
within a month the deal was done.
Nice.
I was supposed to get something for that. But at the end of the day, I just love seeing the machines being here. So
Yeah.
yeah. But the Ballard deal, the Equipment Defender deal,
Yep.
and the latest one, GA, like GA, oh man, like I mean, it took me 3 years to get that deal,
Yeah.
and I really had to fucking prove myself to them.
Yep.
And I didn't have to prove it in sales. I didn't have to prove it. I guess they just needed to see how long I was going to be in the game for, and if we were actually committed to being here.
Well, I think it's proof of the type of business that you are too, because selling one product, you're just an independent person out there with an idea. But as you've accumulated a multitude of products that you have available online, you have essentially become a Australian dealer by comparison to other businesses in terms of the types of products that you carry, the amount of product that you carry, the way that you run your business?
Well, there's a few reasons behind all of this. One of them is that, unconsciously, without anyone knowing, we were, and I'm not trying to flatter myself. I mean, I was very flattered when this came up, but we were accidentally becoming a competitor to
Yeah.
a GA Spares, and only on a very small scale. But with some of the products that we were doing, we were obviously competing against them.
Yeah.
What was really awkward about that is that I, whilst I'm not on their payroll or anything, we do a lot of product placement with their OEM whole goods, like the Gravely, Bushranger,
Yep.
things like that. And
Yeah.
then we were actually helping them develop new products. And when I say helping them develop, I mean, like, I wasn't in any conference meetings where we were sitting down, like I wasn't privy to any of that stuff. But
Yeah.
when they had something, they're like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yep.
Maybe if they got something, hey, can you test this behind the scenes?
Yep.
And all of that was going on along with me, accidentally becoming a competitor to them. It ended up making sense.
Yeah.
Their biggest reservation for me becoming a GA dealer was that it would possibly piss off a lot of their current dealers,
Yeah.
which is a very real thing. But
Yeah.
I think realistically, if you're a mower shop,
Hmm.
and even if you do have a website, right, unless you have an e-commerce store, we're not in the same game.
Yeah.
We're just
And
not in the same game. Like, people aren't sitting around at 8 o'clock at night and going like, I might go down and get a Briggs and Stratton air filter
yeah.
from my mower shop. You can't do that. They
Yeah.
don't. They sit there and they watch TV and they think, oh, fuck, what do I need for this? Jump online, Google it. Here's CatchPro. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So we're not competing with those people. We
Yeah.
are competing with some really big, reputable GA online dealers.
Yep.
Where we add a new flavor is, and this was my whole pitch to GA,
Hmm.
we are selling so many niche products that nobody else has access to. So,
Yeah.
hey, you want to come to the CatchPro site? You take a look at the Whippa Grippa. Oh, geez, I like that.
Yep.
While I'm here, let's get some bloody Honda blades, or let's grab some
Yep.
spark plugs. And that is the thought process behind it.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And I think, there are one or two dealers around Australia, a small handful of mower shops that have an online presence now, that are wanting to have an online presence. But you're coming from the other end where you have an online presence, not a mower shop. And to be fair, there's more than one mower shop in Australia. They've got competitors. There's more than one mower shop in Newcastle. There's more than one mower shop in Southside.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I mean, I know that I've always been very protective online, publicly, whatever it is. I mean, people challenge me all the time. I've always been very protective of, let's say the catch pro, for example.
yeah,
If someone was coming out with a grass catcher in Australia, I I would be, like, that's the only statement that someone would ever be sending is, we want to compete with Catch Pro.
yeah,
That's not what we are really trying to do by doing the GA deal. We're
yeah,
actually trying to satisfy an audience and a customer base that
yeah,
is requesting these products.
yep,
Like someone, and like I would just forward these email requests. And,
mm,
like, I mean, the amount of mowers that we sell for numerous brands is astronomical. I don't keep a tally of it,
yeah,
but I can tell you now, like the amount of Skags, Bushrangers, Graveleys, um, in particular,
Yeah.
that I've actually personally been, like responsible for
Yep.
is humongous.
Time
Yeah.
for you to start drop shipping some mowers.
No, I mean it's just it's one of those things where like that's how we give back to the dealers.
Yeah.
And there'll be certain dealers that you know they would be like, and I guess the only other thing that's difficult is that CatchPro has hundreds of its own dealerships now.
Yeah.
And in a certain way we compete with them. In
Yep.
other ways we do business with them.
Yeah.
So, it gets a bit tricky, but at the end of the day, like I'm 38 years old
Yep.
and I want to work as hard as I possibly can now so that when I'm 48, I don't want to be sitting here punching rivets or nutserting or, doing these things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I really just want to be picking up a box. And, I mean, look,
Yep.
realistically, I want someone else to be picking up that box and putting the shipping label on. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the world we live in, right? Where you've come up with a business idea that competes with lawnmower shops, or it competes with eBay, or it competes with Alibaba, or whatever it is, and you've got to run with what is the current world market, and that means you've got manufacturers that are direct to market, and then you've got supply chains that have got 10 different links in it. So you're working with both.
Yeah. Actually, something that's been sort of brought up the most in terms of, like, are we competing? Is it, a few people have been dirty on the GA deal,
Yeah.
is they somehow think that GA is shipping direct to the consumer via CatchPro.
Okay.
But that's not the case. And they
Right.
don't do that for anyone. It is one of
Yeah.
their, so when someone places an order through the CatchPro website, for a GA product, I then have to, just like I have to do with all of my other suppliers, I either have to carry stock, and if I
Yep.
don't have that stock, I have to order that product.
Yeah.
So, like that was one of the biggest things. Like apparently dealers are ringing up and saying, how could you guys, not ringing me,
Yeah.
ringing GA and say, well, what's going on here?
Yep.
The other thing that separates us apart, which I'm sure that GA looked at, was the fact that, like, yes, we're online. Yes, we have other products that grab people's eyeballs.
Yeah.
But all the Instagram social media videos, like, people don't actually understand how many awesome products there are under this GA label.
Yeah.
Mechanic in a bottle, service kits,
Yep.
all of this awesome stuff that we can just take a screenshot, post an Instagram story, and someone be like, "Oh, I didn't
Yep.
know you had that." I mean, it's 15,000 products.
Yeah. And look, the end user often won't think about it until they need an air filter or a oil filter or some engine oil or two-stroke oil. Right? They don't think about the fact that a dealer like yourself has the need to carry all of these different blades, all of these different filters, all these different bits and pieces to make sure that the end user has access to the parts they need to service.
Yeah, I guess the biggest challenge for myself is that I'm an online retailer.
Yeah.
I'm not a mechanic. So if someone
Yeah.
comes to me and says, I need a push rod for a Kohler engine,
Yeah.
well, I'm screwed.
Yep.
And then that's when I have to go and do my own homework. Um,
Yeah.
that's been a pretty big adjustment for me, because what it
Yep.
also does mean is that Vicky is out. Like,
Right.
on the Shopify chat, or like if someone emails in, if they ask for a particular fitment for a CatchPro, or they want to know something about a Whippa Grippa or a wheel locker or something like that,
Yep.
there's a certain amount of that I can pass on to Vicky.
Yeah. Of course.
If she knows I'm busy, if let's say I'm out with the twins or whatever's happening, she
Yeah.
knows like, okay, I can answer this question.
Yeah.
If it's a technical question about, hey, which spark plug do I need for my Briggs and Stratton, bloody rah, 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 that's where it all falls on me.
Yeah. So when I put an order in for blades and I say, "Hey Vicky, tell Ben to put his pants on and hurry up and get these blades out to me," she gets the answer.
Yeah, well, she put my pants back on for me.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're off in the first place, Gaz?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Believe that one.
No, so the GA deal is, it's a big accomplishment for me. And it's not really about having the products, because it's a lot to market.
Yeah.
But the deal, going back to when I said I was a pretty sentimental dude, at the same time, like I don't get a lot of time to sit there and reflect, because obviously, it doesn't really mean much unless you're making money. But that one means a lot to me because, I was, they actually first knew me as a mowing contractor.
Yeah.
Like I was testing equipment for them in the field.
Yeah.
And now I'm like I'm not one of their top resellers, but I'm certainly in the mix. I'm certainly in the conversation for sure.
Yep. And that is testament
And
to
now
what
I have their competitors chasing CatchPro,
Yeah, okay.
to be a reseller. So that's really
Well,
good.
interesting to see if you start opening up other lines there.
Yeah, we just won't get into it, but you have everything that you need in that lineup. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I do know what you mean.
There's several other, like I think Briggs have like all the Oregon.
Yeah.
Briggs have their own like GA division. Obviously, there's Jack Max,
Yeah.
there's Arians. There's a few. There's more than what people think out there.
Yeah.
But GA has everything that I could ever need as a reseller. And not only that, like like I said, it was more than a business deal because we didn't get the deal necessarily because we are Catch Pro Australia. It was because they actually got to know me as a person and they could see my business evolving and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's how it came about. We were just making so much noise in the industry that it's just a no-brainer for them.
Yeah, it's essential.
And also, I'm just an absolute pest until I get what I want.
That's it. Well, Ben, it's been good talking to you. Good to catch up again.
Yep.
It's
Love being back on the show.
Yeah, it's good to get you on.
I haven't done one of my own podcasts in like 4 weeks, so I might as well do it on someone, right?
Yep, that's it. Yes.
For anyone out there I don't know, when's this dropping?
I'm not sure. I'll try and get it out fairly quickly, though. I've got about 4 other episodes in the queue at the moment, but we'll probably push this one through.
Well, if you haven't heard the Skull Sessions by the time this comes out, something really bad has gone wrong. BJ's been away and he's come back to a growing season, and
yes,
I have my first production runs on the way. Because everything at the moment that we've got is pre-order. I'm hoping it's available when people listen to this, but I've got a lot of assembly that I've got to get ready to do.
Yeah, well, that'll keep you busy.
Think about it like this, Gaz. For every rivet that I used to install, I now have a nut cert, which takes roughly 2 to 3 times longer to install than a rivet.
That's going to keep you busy.
Yeah. It's going to keep me busy, yeah. So it's a shame that the assembly time for the old series built catcher,
Yep.
compared to the new flat design, the assembly time for as a manufacturer, me,
Yep.
is actually might even be a tiny bit longer at the moment.
Yeah.
But I will
Yeah.
get more efficient.
I can appreciate that because I went and changed out some of the rivets and bolts with nut certs in my CatchPro when I put the dust cover on it.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. So rather than just putting bolts through, I was like, all right, let's nut cert it and make it easy to manage.
And you know what? I apologise to everyone that's got a CatchPro. We should have done that years ago. We should have put nut certs in that top wall so that you can do that. Everyone will be glad to know that that's how the new dust shield is going to install. So you could
Easy.
just take those bolts out.
Yep.
Whereas
Perfect.
before you had to run a nut and pain in the ass.
Yep. No, it's good. Well, Ben, have a good night. Catch you later.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Thanks, mate.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.